This is Dr. Amorita Treganza, a member of the San Diego, California Optometric Extension Program Study Group. This recording, titled "The Visual Examination of the 6-Year-Old," is based on a presentation made at a San Jose Visual Training Forum. If you who are listening will write down the titles we have given the 21-point examination, it's hoped that it will stimulate your imagination further, and you may improve all of the following techniques in your own office with your own ideas. A 6-year-old can't read, and present-day educators don't teach the kiddies the alphabet. But every 6-year-old knows the clown at the circus, Bugs Bunny, and an ice cream soda. So use a chart with pictures or symbols rather than the letters to take the visual acuity. And besides, it's fun to take a visual acuity on a 6-year-old. Their eyes are probably more expressive at that age than any other. They twinkle at the cowboy, they glower at the Halloween pumpkin, they brighten at the 6-shooter, and they dull on the fish. Next year at 7, they're much more blasé. They just as soon read off blocks and circles and hearts. And from 8 on, letters will do fine. And you know, at 6, they like to have their brains measured. And remember that whatever their PD is, that is just the right amount of brains. And besides, you always know what grade they're in. The first one, butterflies on the fundus. We tell the children that the ophthalmoscope is a little searchlight to see if there are any bugs or butterflies, or maybe even birds making a nest back in there. And don't get too enthusiastic and underestimate your little patient. At 8 or 9, if you start looking for butterflies on the fundus, he'll think you've got rocks in your head. Learn how to adapt yourself to the individual child's age level. Number 2, the Tommy gun technique. The ophthalmometer makes a wonderful Tommy gun. You swing it around in front of him. The doctor can explain that the patient is looking at his own eye, or he can tell the child that they're looking at one another, and ask the child to count the number of times he sees the doctor blink. If that sounds a little far-fetched, go look at yourself in a mirror and try to count the number of times you blink. The number 3 finding, habitual phoria at distance, we call magic with sailing ships. The AO projected chart has one line with a small ship on it. This or any other similar object can be placed in a square of light. Ask your little Joe if he's ever seen a magician. Tell him you're going to perform a magic trick. Where there is now only one ship, bang, now there are 2, and the top one is sailing away to one side. Now you make it sail away, and then ask the child to which side the top ship went. Sometimes we have to use blocks in the air in front of the child to show them first what we mean by exactly above. Well, at 6 or even 7 and 8, the child may not know right from left or be confused. So the kinesthetic method of touching the child's right hand, then the left hand, as you say, to which side did the top ship sail, is highly recommended. You see, it saves the youngster from having to stop to figure out which is right and left, and leaves him free to concentrate on the targets. So he wiggles the hand on the side where the top one is, and then you tell him, now let's make that ship sail right back until it's directly above the bottom ship, like the buttons on your shirt. When it gets there, you say now real fast. If at the moment he says now, you snap the prism so there's only one ship, you have aroused his interest, and you've also set the stage for the 5 succeeding phorias. 13A, habitual phoria at near, we have called, let's do it again, Doc. Of course they want to do that again, and they'll want you to explain it to them too. And so perhaps now is an excellent time to bring to your attention a technique which has proven most satisfactory to us. It's usable both in the training room and the refracting room. In fact, many other occasions will arise when you can pull this one out of the closet. If the youngster's a yapper, and they always want to know about your magic trick, you say to him as you remove the phoropter for a moment, "Now, what do you know? I forgot to tell you one of the most important rules in my office. From the time you sit in this chair until I tell you we're through, I ask all the questions. But when we're all through, I'm going to give you all the time you want to ask all the questions you want. So you keep track of everything you want to know, and you and I will sit down together and we'll just talk about all these interesting things." Well, I'll give you 5 to 1 for every question you get. When you've finished, you remove the phoropter and say, "Now how about those questions?" He'll sit there and he'll squint and he'll frown and he'll look all around, and finally may point to the retinoscope or the trial case and say, what's that for? For your 13A findings, since boats were to sail over each other at distance, try a spaceship or a space capsule, and using the same technique, let them fly over one another. A first grader sometimes has a little difficulty in terminology, and it's helpful to show him with your hands what above means. Number 4 is the static retinoscope. We call this flashlights. I look at you. If the child is shown your lighted retinoscope and had it flicked across his face several times, he quickly loses any fear he may have, and he's more than willing to look way down on the wall at the clown or the flag or the cowboy while you look at him with your little flashlight. You can tell him it's the smallest flashlight bulb in the world. With a child who can't hold a fixation and keeps looking at the light, you can make a bargain that sets the stage for your next finding. You insist that he's spoiling your test by not keeping his eyes on the wall, and that if he will do so for just another jiffy or so, then you can reward him by telling him on your next test he can look at you all he wants to. Of course, movies are best if you can afford them, or use pictures of your own dog. Tell the child the dog's name and a little story about him. Number 5 is the dynamic retinoscope, 20 inches. This is called flashlights. You look at me. We have several small pictures that are fitted onto a circular piece of cardboard, and this does well for your number 5 finding. Now, having promised the patient he can now look at you, you might suggest that when he gets tired of counting the wrinkles in your poor, tired forehead, he may enjoy looking at the picture. Beware, however, of having too exciting pictures. You run into a little bit of book retinoscopy. Number 6 is the dynamic retinoscope at 40 inches. We call this flashlights. Let's look at each other. The same pictures can be used on your number 6 findings, or you flip the card over, and we use this number 6 especially if astigmatism varies in 4 and 5, and it often will in children. The number 7, subjective, is entitled Lunch as You Please. Every optometrist works out for himself his own special technique of making his number 7 finding. Now, whether your patient can read or not, whether you use a fan dial and a blur or a flip cylinder, if you can make the first 6 and the last 16 findings, you certainly can work out a suitable number 7. If a 6-year-old doesn't know horizontal from vertical, he has hands that can show you. If he doesn't know clear from blurred, he knows better from worse. And don't underestimate that old Kinya or Kinshasa method. Unless he's colorblind, he can tell you if the star on the red side is clearer than the cross on the green side. In the Practical Applied Optometry paper, volume 23, number 10, for October 51, a wonderful, comprehensive, and significant paper by Dr. Skeffington. And he says, in regard to a 4.5-year-old, this child can't have a structured-in pattern with ESO or one with EXO. The growth factor in the child would make any idea of complete structuring in difficult to justify. And this statement can well be considered for a 6-year-old also, especially if he's had no preschool. Our number 8 finding is the induced phoria at distance. And we call this seals can balance balls. So if number 3 is a ship, 13A is a spaceship, let number 8 be 2 bouncing balls, the top one to be balanced just above the bottom one, or use 2 spinning tops or an airplane. Number 9, the true add at distance. We call this patient vocabulary. And so many times doctors have said, how in the world do you get a number 9 finding? Well, what does a 6-year-old know about the term blurred? Wouldn't it be easier for him to tell you a word than for you to try to explain one to him? So if you're having difficulty making this test, draw a letter or even the child's own initials with your pen on a piece of paper. Just before it's dry, smear it a little and ask the child to describe how it looks to him. Throw a picture of some letters on the wall, put a +150 or +2 in the phoropter, and ask him what happens to the picture. He may use the words smeary, dinky, blurred, blurdy, fuzzy, whatever the term he uses. Ask him to tell you when the picture looks like that as you turn in your prism base out to blur. But let him use his own vocabulary. It has meaning to him. Convergence at distance we call once upon a time 2 little boys had a fight, the number 10 finding. Dr. Barstow's adaptation of this test is better than any other yet found, and it works beautifully. Project the figure of a little boy for boys, a little girl for girls, and tell the child that behind this little boy there's another little boy right behind him. Now you watch very carefully, and all of a sudden that little boy that's hiding will pop out, and then there will be 2 little boys. You say now real fast when you see them. And so all of a sudden he jumps and says, now. Then you say, now these 2 little boys had a fight, and they're going far away from each other. They're real mad. And you make them go far away with your prisms. Then you say, oh, look, I think they want to make up. Let's watch and see. Sure enough, they're coming closer and closer. Now, you say, you tell me when you think they've made up, and that little boy sneaks behind the other one just like they were at the beginning. And the child says, now, real quick, in a big, loud voice, and so you record your recovery point. Number 11 is the abduction at distance, and we call it hide and seek. Now, rather than repeat yourself for the number 11 finding, an approach such as this might be made. I wonder if those 2 boys really did fight. I didn't hear any noise, did you? Let's look again. Maybe they were just playing hide and seek. Now, you watch down there and tell me when you see 2. And so after recording your break, you can say, well, they're sneaking closer and closer to each other. You tell me when one disappears behind the other one. And after recording the recovery, let the child make his own decision of whether the little boys were fighting or playing hide and seek. The vertical phoria, number 12 and 18, we call, how good an acrobat are you? All 6-year-olds have been to the circus at least once. And with the advent of television, vaudeville is here to stay. So you didn't have any fear in taking a number 12 finding. We just project 2 long vertical and narrow patches on the wall. Tell the child you want these boxes to be so level that you could put a board across the top, or that a wire stretched from one to the other would be level enough to walk on. So you make them vertically unequal to begin with, and give the child another chance to speak his little now when they're level. If the same thing is done immediately at near with a colored oblong on a near-point card, you've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. And please do keep telling the child, aren't we having fun? Well, of course, there's always that one child who says no. The number 13B finding, induced phoria at near, we call this one Bugs Bunny is an acrobat. Out of any current Disney funny book can be cut a Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, Andy Panda, and pasted in the center of a near-point card. And have your little patient tell you when the top Bugs Bunny is standing on the other one's head. Don't confuse small youngsters by asking them if the top bunny is to the left or the right of the lower one. You put it either way you want it, and then you move it from there. When they're properly lined up, you can then say, now you rabbits stay right there because we're coming back to you real soon and see if you minded us. Number 14A, the cross cylinder disassociated. We have called this grids are tricky. The cross-cylinder finding has a big beware sign in front of it. By now, your patient should be having fun. This is a big game. He's the star and stealing the show. And every child likes that sensation. He wants to continue in this warm glow of achievement. So when you throw him a dull, uninteresting cross grid and say, which is darker, the up and down lines or the cross lines, you've handed him a big fat letdown after a beautiful build-up. but he's eager to give you the right answer. And the right answer to many children is the one he thinks you want to have him give. Because the cross-cylinder findings are so important in prescribing plus for near, every precaution should be taken to obtain the true answer. Experience has proven that a straight-from-the-shoulder explanation with no frills and falderalls will get you the correct answer fastest. Remove the phoropter for a moment and say, "Now look, Marianne, when I examine your eyes, there just aren't any right or wrong answers. You aren't passing a test. You're just telling me what you see." Even the tone of your voice in checking up and down and cross lines should never register approval, disapproval, surprise, or consternation. If Marianne says the up and down lines are blacker when all you have in the phoropter is her +1/4 number 7, don't say in a horror-stricken voice, "What?" Maybe the up and down lines are blacker. Put in a little plus, then remove it 1/4 at a time to see if the eyes will loosen up a bit. Make a line with your finger on the child's chest in the direction you wish to discuss. This tactile reinforcing will aid the child in seeing the lines from your viewpoint. We say to the children, "Your eyes are different from any other little girls or boys, and it's up to you to tell me what you really see so I'll know how you are different." They like to be alike in groups, but different individually. Number 15A, induced phoria, the unfused cross-cylinder, we call check the acrobats. With that finding under your belt, go back and check Bugs Bunny to see if he's still standing on his pal's head. If you got any plus at all in the 14A, he shouldn't be. So line them up again with a further admonition to stay right there. 14B, the binocular cross-cylinder, we call kids are tricky. The fused binocular cross-cylinder test should be made as carefully as the disassociated, never letting your voice betray your expecteds. Always reminding the youngster to tell you what he really sees so you'll know what to show him next. 15B, the induced phoria with the fused cross-cylinder, we call double check the acrobats. Let's check those rabbits once more before we look at something else. So with a final look and lining up of the rabbits, the phoria tests are finished. 16A and 17A we call the Greeks had a word for it, and so has your patient. Remember your number 9 finding and the term used to express blur? Put a Donald Duck on a nearpoint card. Ask the child to tell you when the picture looks fuzzy or whatever word he used, and warn him that there's a duck hiding behind the one he sees and that he may pop out before the picture gets fuzzy. And now we come to the positive and negative fusional reserve, and we call this the same old plot with new characters. And this brings you smoothly into your 16B and 17B breaks and recoveries with the same little stories about different little characters than you used in your number 10 and 11 findings. Since 19, 20, and 21 are all blur findings, it's a very simple procedure to finish your analytical using the child's self-chosen words. And make all your tests on children at 13 inches or at right angle of the arm. Now this may all sound very complicated and lengthy. It takes no longer than an analytical routine on an adult if you have an average child. If the child is hyperactive and distractible, it's better to take part of your findings this visit and the rest at a later date. Observe the child's bodily actions behind the phoropter. If he begins to fidget and squirm and yawn, especially yawn, then he's fatigued. 2 visits is a minimum for any child anyway, so don't try to do everything in an hour. This recording is another service of your optometric extension program.